When I was younger, I received a DIY mosaic arts and crafts set as a birthday gift. I spent hours placing colored squares onto a template, forming princesses, castles, and more. Sometimes I would try to use my own artistic intuition to figure out where to place each piece, but this did not always work out. I would end up with random blobs of color splattered across a page rather than an image of a castle and a moat. I have always believed that we are mosaics of experiences, people, and memories, with each tessera intentionally placed to form a cohesive picture. As human beings, we are shaped by and impressionable in one way or another, shaped by the people we spend time with, the media we consume, and the experiences that we have. Modern day technology makes for a very trend-dictated time, and we often find ourselves getting tips and information from social media figures, influencers, and world leaders. Influence is a constant in everyday life. As a junior, the end of last year was the first time, for probably the majority of my grade, where college-related meetings prompted us to start thinking about visits, application, and so much more. The more I learned about the process, the more it seems to ask us who we are. So I sit and think to myself, what makes me Layomi? What things are authentic to me, and what is important to me? What are the tessera of my mosaic? From observing mine and others' behavior, I've noticed that growing up in a time like this has caused an authenticity famine. At the peak of the pandemic, we were all encouraged to stay home and attend school remotely. This was a period of self-discovery for me, as we had no choice but to be productive and recreational from the comfort of our own homes. And I found myself thinking, without the structure of a regular day, and with so much in-person interaction eradicated, who am I? We have become so accustomed to routine and absorbing information that reflection is a rarity. During this period, I learned so much about myself, my passions, my personality, and my interests. For instance, I loved creative writing prior to COVID, but during COVID, I honed this skill and figured out how I can use it more outside of an academic context. I've learned ways to enhance it and how to apply it to extracurriculars, to blogging, and writing and hoping to publish someday. I'm sure you are all familiar with the concept and teaching that time is a precious gift. And if there's one thing that the lockdown gave us, it is time. Time is a gift so invaluable, so endlessly ticking, and so dripping with opportunity that many would say it is a shame to waste it. But while it is all well and good to talk about being intentional with every second, this is unrealistic for the average person. I think that we sometimes mistake imperfection for fulfillment. And while I could afford all those extra hours when I was younger, striving for perfectionism in every area, sometimes completion has to replace perfection. Each and every one of us has the gift of time, but improperly navigated, thought of it can turn sour. Time is an asset, and it is beneficial when thought of as such. If I'm trying to grow a tree and constantly watering it, but my seed doesn't germinate, I'm better off continuing than shutting down the process completely, as the former leaves the door of possibility ajar. Moreover, I'm better off researching and troubleshooting to figure out how to solve the problem. Just because you haven't seen the fruits of your labor does not mean that your efforts are futile. And cliché as it may sound, persistence is so key and important to growth. My thoughts during this process might look like, should I have used a different seed? Did I use the wrong soil, or do I have to start again? However, recognizing these patterns helped me avoid futile self-criticism and reshape my mindset to something more like, I tried planting this and it didn't work, but the time spent on it was worth it and no knowledge is wasted. In the future, I can figure out how to do this more efficiently and correctly. Remembering the mosaic analogy, every experience fits into the bigger picture. Once I started viewing time as an asset for authenticity, my mindset started to shift. There is a reason why we have the experiences we have and make the mistakes that we do. There are so many days where I start to compare my productivity to others, or just compare aspects of life in general to others, but the next person's strategies may not be optimal for me. And exploring what works is completely acceptable, seeing as we all have different paths and images of success. Viewing time as an asset has allowed me to be content. Though we can work as hard as we want and as hard as we can never guarantee the height, the roughness, or the placement of the stepping stones of our journey. And learning to accept that we each have our unique paths has made me appreciate my individuality and believe in my capacity for change. We can see how time and authenticity worked out for world changers and pioneers through the ages. As a writer, I'm extremely inspired by Emily Dickinson, one of my favorite poets, And her writing style was very unique and unusual to the time, but she was very prominent amongst other writers of her time. And then there's Dr. Seuss, an author whose first book was rejected 27 times, but that didn't stop him going back for a 28th. We cannot conform to transform, and we cannot doubt our current standing if we are to achieve our greatest potential. We have to take our traits, our talents, and our intuition in our stride if we are able to achieve authentically. So I ask you today, what makes you who you are? Do you control what you can and trust that with time, things will develop? With every day, our roots are watered and our trees grow into fruition. Do you trust this cycle? I find so much serenity in realizing that with time, tangible results can come from working at things that are true to who we are. Thank you.